致辞勉励。
Our next speaker, Harvard alumni Ma served as the 12th President of the Republic of China from 2008 to 2016. Let us welcome President Ma.
Vice President Guo, student representatives from Taida and Harvard, and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. This is really my honor to be here with you all today. I happen to graduate from both Taida and Harvard, so I'm quite qualified to come over here. And just about 10 days ago, I was visiting Harvard. I had a chance to speak to the students from the Harvard community on issues that concerns us. What I'm going to tell you today is actually a part of this very similar to what I said 10 days ago at Harvard. I graduated in 1981 and had a chance to stay there for 4.5 years. And I enjoy very much the Harvard community. Consider that a best place to do research. And when I was invited to speak, this time I tried to identify the areas where I learned the most at Harvard and where I accomplished the most in Taiwan. So I'm trying to make a linkage between the two. Well, I found basically there are three things. First of all, the course I took at Harvard, Law of the Sea, has played a very important role in the last several decades in Taiwan, in the world. And I was very happy to took the course by Professor Louis Song. He is always nicknamed as the father of modern law of the sea. And at the time, the Law of the Sea Convention negotiations were going on, and we had a lot of chance to keep pace with the developments in the world community. So there are a number of things that helped me to administer this country in the East China Sea and in the South China Sea. At the time, we studied the new rules of the sea law in order to give the ocean environment a new order. In the East China Sea, I'm sure you're aware, we have a number of territorial disputes with Japan. And in the South China Sea, we also have a similar dispute with claimants of the South China Sea. So in the East China Sea, in 2012, I proposed the East China Sea Peace Initiative, trying to settle this dispute through peaceful means. In the end, we signed a fisheries agreement with Japan, taking care of our fishery dispute in the last 40 years. And that agreement seems to work quite well. The agreement was signed in 2013. In 2012, we had 17 agreements, disputes with Japan. But in 2013, the number dropped to only one. And beginning from 2014, there has not been a single dispute with Japan. On the other hand, Taiwanese fishermen were allowed to operate in an area roughly twice the size of Taiwan, roughly 70,000 square kilometers. So that is very good news to our fishermen, and they were able to catch a lot of fish. For instance, fish such as skipjack, 煎鱼, mackerel, 青鱼, and mahi-mahi, that's 叫做鬼头刀, and bluefin tuna, 黄鳍尾鱼, 还有 bluefin tuna, 黑尾鱼. So the fishermen were very happy. Japan and Republic of China are happy too. The United States also pleased because the dispute settlement mechanism worked very well. And our friends in Australia, New Zealand, and even European Union have all expressed that they actually think we have done a good thing to bring peace to East China Sea. But there's only one party which is not happy. Can you tell me who it is? Anyone? Anyone? Raise your hand if you know the answer. Well, you don't. Let me tell you. The only party which is not happy is the fish. Because the catch of fish increased about 3 times. And we actually duplicate that experience in South China Sea, where we had similar dispute with the Filipinos, particularly in 2013. One of the fishing boats were chased by the Filipino Coast Guard. One fisherman was shot dead, and the fishing boat was injured to the point that it no longer can navigate with its own power. So we asked the Philippine government to apologize, to compensate the victim's family, and to prosecute the perpetrators. And most important of all, we should negotiate a fishery agreement pretty much like we had with Japan, so that we could forever take care of the dispute. Well, we waited for 3 months, and we had to impose trade economic sanctions against them for 3 months. And eventually, they agreed to send a presidential representative to apologize to the victim's family, to compensate them, and to prosecute the 8 Coast Guard who actually opened fire with automatic weapons, including light machine gun. And the last one, the fishery agreement, was not done, but we agreed on another agreement on enforcement action in fishery matters. In other words, I think we do have difficulties reaching a fishery agreement because the Filipinos have very different views of the law of the sea. But on enforcement, 执法行为, well, we have accomplished quite a lot. We have agreed on 3 things. First of all, no force should be used. Secondly, in case of enforcement, either side should be notified 1 hour in advance to make necessary preparations. And number 3, if any ship or person is either arrested or detained, they should be released in 3 days. This is very important because time is money for the fishermen. Well, ever since that agreement was concluded, there hasn't been very many cases, just quite a few. And in other words, what troubled us for 40 years, either in the East China Sea and South China Sea, we have already solved the bulk of the problem. One day I went down to the southern part of Taiwan to Xiaoliuqiu to see the fishermen. They told me they never thought that the government can spend so much time trying to work out a solution for them. And I told them I have been concerned about the issue for 40 years. When I studied law at Harvard and was invited to come back to Taiwan to participate in a national construction conference, I wrote a piece and actually submitted to a newspaper. The title is Looking at the Taiwan Fishery Dispute from the Point of View of International Law. And actually what I did 35 years later is exactly what I suggest 35 years ago. So you can see that from student Ma to President Ma, I tried my best to help the country solve its problems with its neighbors. 从马同学到马总统, I have tried my best. The second thing I think I have learned at Harvard is protection of human rights. When I was Justice Minister, I encountered a case, death penalty case. 3 young men were sentenced to death for heinous murder of a couple. They were actually convicted, and the papers were sent to the Prosecutor General. The Prosecutor General, 检察总长, came to see me and asked me whether I feel comfortable with that case. I said, I haven't read that case yet. How about you? He said he didn't feel comfortable. Well, I said, if that's the case, do whatever you're supposed to do. So he decided to file an actual ordinary appeal, 非常上诉, not just once, actually 3 times. That was unprecedented in the history of our judiciary. So when he gave up and sent that to me and said, Mr. Minister, now it's your decision whether to execute the 3 death prisoners or not. Well, I spent a week studying every detail of that case. And in the end, I came to the conclusion, this is not beyond reasonable doubt. I'm sure those of you who study law in Western society, I'm sure you understand what beyond reasonable doubt means. 超出合理的怀疑，就是你不能够有合理的怀疑，你才做决定。但这个案子我觉得有些怀疑，所以我决定暂停执行死刑。So I stayed the execution of the death penalty and let the defense lawyers to try to get a retrial, which they did. So for another more than 10 years, eventually the Supreme Court acquitted the 3 death prisoners. Well, this is the first time in history of this country that a justice minister stayed the execution of the death prisoners, and eventually they had the opportunity to be free. But again, a lot of people disagree with what I did. Quite a few judges criticized me, saying that, do you think you are the 4th level of judge? You're not supposed to do this. I said, look at the criminal procedure law. Yes, I do have the authority. But the victim's family, well, that's something I cannot really do to help them. I try. The mother of the husband who were killed came to, I went to see her. He knelt down and said, 马部长，你为什么要保护坏人? She asked me, why do I protect the bad guy? I told her, I'm not so sure he's the bad guy. But in any case, I tried to help his grandson and granddaughter to actually go through the most difficult period of their life. So that is something I learned from Harvard. I know the protection of human rights is of paramount importance in a society. Number 3 is cross-strait relations. Just about the time, about the 3rd year I came to Harvard, there was the first student from Chinese mainland came to the United States, a woman student. Her mother used to be the alumni of Wellesley, Massachusetts, so she was admitted. That was the first one, 1978. I remember it very clearly. And gradually, there are more students come, and we had a chance to talk to them and understand more about mainland China, about their study, everything. One day, when I finished my doctoral examination and got my degree, I was about to move from Cambridge to New York. So I had to get rid of my bicycle. My bicycle was bought right there. It was made in Poland and cost me $60. So I said I want to sell that at 36. So I put on notices on the bulletin board as normally student did. Well, I got a phone call from someone who speaking English with an Asian accent. So I said, why don't you come to my apartment and take a look at the bicycle? So he came. Well, he's from mainland China. He looked at my bicycle around and said, how come your bicycle does not have a frame in the back to hold goods? I said, this is just for transportation, not for actually transporting goods. So he said he will only offer $30. So we negotiated for a while. Eventually, I decided to sell it to him for $32. Well, this is just a very small thing. But this is the first direct trade between 2 sides of Taiwan Strait, first time in history. Well, Harvard gave me a lot of things to think about. Harvard gave me the opportunity to try many things to improve the conditions of this country when I first took office 9 years ago. Trying to make this land a land of freedom, of just and prosperity. In addition to that, I also want to make the Taiwan Strait a peaceful one, which I did. And also, well, I hope the international environment of this country could also be improved as a result. Before I took office, there were only 54 countries and territories of the world which give our citizens visa-free or landing visa treatment when they enter their country. By the time I stepped down last year, the number jumped from 54 to 162. I'm trying to make the foreign travel much easier for our citizens. And this is something that I have done. But again, we still have a long way to go. But the cooperation between Harvard and NTU will be a good start to let our young people get together, make friends at an early stage of their life. Harvard also gave me some interesting moments to enjoy. My oldest daughter was born there. And well, actually, originally we didn't want to have a child before I graduated, but we paid so much for our insurance, we think we'll probably have to use it anyway. So we did. And before the baby was born, my wife and I are thinking how to name our baby. I'm sure you can see those books in the bookstore, naming your babies. So we bought one and actually browsed through. Unfortunately, we couldn't find a name good enough for our baby girl. So we decided to follow the great Chinese tradition to use the name of the place for the newborn baby. Because we were in Cambridge, so we tried to name her Cambridge. Well, our family name is Ma, so Cambridge Ma. When I let it down, people would say, well, this is Cambridge, Massachusetts. Well, if we do that, and my daughter in the future use that in whatever occasion, people will ask, hey, what is your zip code? Another interesting episode is, one day I drove my old car to Chinatown to buy some groceries. I parked there and I spent about half an hour and bought grocery back. Well, I found a ticket right on the windshield of my car, $20. I said, I didn't find any sign of no parking in this area, so I looked around. Well, the sign is almost 100 yards away. I think this is unfair because I was not notified properly. So I decided to fight the case in court. Well, I filed a petition that I want to appear in court to argue the case. Well, within a month, I got a notice I could go. But before that, I had done my homework. I went there, studied the area, and draw a map showing how distant that north-south side was from my car. Then I have to wait in long lines to let the judge hear what complaint I had. So when you look at the file and the map I drew, he asked me, are you a student? I said, yes. Are you a law student? I said, yes. He said, what law school do you go to? I said, Harvard. And he said, not guilty. He said, not guilty. Well, good. So $20 were quite a lot of money for me because that could be my budget for groceries for 2 weeks. So I think the legal system in the United States is quite fair. Well, I think I should stop here. And once again, I welcome you all to visit my country and my city. I used to be this mayor of this city for 8 years and used to be the president of this country for another 8 years. So wherever you go, you are welcome, and hope you can really build a friendship with your counterpart in National Taiwan University. Once again, welcome. Thank you very much.
金马前总统留步。现在请这次代表台大和哈佛参加台大哈佛论坛的代表团上台拍一张大合照。
Thank you, President Ma, for your fascinating speech. Let us now welcome the Harvard and NTU delegates on stage for a group photo.